the first 4 bars.
Good morning, Unity of Tucson. I am not, woohoo! Yes, I am not Reverend Jonathan Zen. Reverend Jonathan is taking a much-needed retreat. My name is Reverend Felicia Searcy, and I get to play with you this morning. So if you are able, let's everybody stand up, and I'm going to let our music people sing.
Something great is happening, love has taken hold and it won't let us go of us now. Something here is calling us forward, upward motion with drops in one ocean roll on. Will you rise up with me today? Lift up your voice and boldly say, we are the ones we've been waiting for. Live the dream of your highest calling, be the hope of a new day dawning. We're the ones who can make a difference, let's stand together. Share your gift with the world that's waiting for a change that we're all creating. It's a moment for our greatness, let's stand together now. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Every day's a chance you can do something amazing, to feel your passion blazing and shine. Paint with every vision and dance in new directions. Explode to new heights in your mind. I will rise up with you today. Lift up my voice and boldly say, we are the ones we've been waiting for.
Live the dream of your highest calling, be the hope of a new day dawning. We're the ones who can make a difference, let's stand together. Share your gifts with the world that's waiting for a change that we're all creating. It's the moment of our greatness, let's stand together. Live the dream of your highest calling, be the hope of a new day dawning. We're the ones who can make a difference, let's stand together. Share your gift with the world that's waiting for a change that we're all creating. It's the moment of our greatness, let's stand together now. Let's stand together now.
Woohoo! Yes! Love it. So, once again, good morning, Unity Tucson, you amazing beings. My name is Reverend Felicia Searcy. I am your staff minister, which means I'm volunteer, which means I get to hang out with this amazing community. I'm fairly new to Tucson and even newer to Unity of Tucson. And I got to tell you, I am absolutely falling in love with this amazing community, and it is such an honor to be able to be here and play with you in this way. So, and this is my first time, yeah, thank you. Really, clap before, right? Because you don't know what you're getting. So, and know that this is my first service, so if I kind of stumble a little bit, lots of love and grace, right? Good. Because here's what I know for sure. I get to pour in. Regardless if we do this perfectly, my job and my delight is to be able to pour into each one of you this morning, and it is my joy. So, all right, so we here have a vision and mission, and I don't turn that on, right, Don? But it should be up on the wall. Pardon? Yeah, the remote's moving it up here. Don, how do I get it up on the wall? Oh. All right. So I just anything after this is going to be great, right? All right, so here at Unity of Tucson, we have a vision and a mission that we say together. So here is our vision. This is what we envision for our world. And so let's say this together. We envision a world awakened to its magnificence. And here's how we do it together. Love only, forgive everything, Remember who you are. So if you are here for the first time, we like to acknowledge you. And so if you're comfortable, if you'd be willing to stand, and one of our board members has I don't know your name. Ross. Ross has a gift for you. So if you're here for the first time and you'd like to receive a gift, if you would be comfortable with standing, yay! These are my buds. And, one more, Ross. There we go. And and way in the back, those are the cool kids. You sit at the back of the bus. So here at Unity of Tucson, we do our research on you all, as Reverend Jonathan loves to say, that we know something about you before you even walk in the door. And so together as a community, we're going to claim what we know about you. Y'all ready? Let's get our hands warmed up, and together, you are magnificent. Yes. And the reason we know that is because it's not isolated to them, but fundamentally this is who we all are. And so together, let's claim what we know to be spiritually true about all of us. Together, I am magnificent. All right, welcome this morning. Today, our keeper of the flame, which is our amazing licensed Unity teacher, Susan Smith.
Good morning, everyone. It's lovely to be here with you all. All right, so these are our flames, and what we do is do a ceremony here just to honor the common thread of all of these different spiritual practices and that we share with one another. So help me just feel these words in your heart. We light a candle for the Tao, honoring the universal path of harmony and equilibrium, the natural way. We light a candle for the shamanic traditions, honoring the beliefs and practices of all indigenous people, the way of primal spirituality. We light a candle for Hinduism, honoring the path of knowledge, action, and devotion. We light a candle for Judaism, honoring the ethical path of living by sacred law. We light a candle for all forms of Buddhism, honoring the Four Noble Truths and the path of compassion. We light a candle for all forms of Christianity, honoring the Christ consciousness as the path of love. We light a candle for all forms of Islam, honoring the path of submission to divine love as the highest calling. We light a candle for the universal religion of Baha'i, honoring the path of unity and peace. We light a candle for all forms of New Thought, honoring the metaphysical path of mental healing through the practice of universal spiritual principles. We light a candle for all faith traditions unnamed in this ceremony, and for any seekers who may be unaware of the power and presence of spirit in their lives, and for the space that we are keeping open for them in our hearts. We light this final candle to represent the healing of any circumstance that requires divinity to be revealed. This is your candle for whatever is in your mind and heart that requires the light.
Thank you, Susan. And the candle on your left is the peace candle, which keeps us constantly reminding us that we are the illumination of all that is. And that when we acknowledge the peace that is in our heart and the peace of who we are, this is truly the way that we are able to bring, express, and catalyze peace in our world. So as we allow this to represent the peace that is illuminating in and as each one of us together. Let's say our peace prayer. Divine love indwells in each person and radiates from one to another. Harmony is established and peace begins to reign in the world. And if you all would please welcome our prayer chaplain, that we have prayer chaplains that are here to hold the energy and hold the space and pray with you. That is here to Deborah Roberts to do a reading and our monthly affirmation.
Thank you, Reverend Felicia. Our reading today on the theme of the power of zeal, which is this month's power, is from the 12 Powers by Charles and Cora Fillmore. Never repress the impulse, the force, the zeal welling up within you. Commune with it in spirit and praise it for its great energy and efficiency in action. At the same time, analyze and direct its course. As zeal alone, it is without intelligence or discretion as to results. Every person must grow in the powers of wisdom and zeal. You are not to repress, but to guide the spirit of enthusiasm, which in cooperation with wisdom will bring you happiness and satisfaction. And now I will share our affirmation and invite you first to hear it, take it in, savor it, and then we will speak the affirmation together twice. I live my life enthusiastically, fully expressing the infinite potential of each and every moment. And together, I live my life enthusiastically, fully expressing the infinite potential of each and every moment. And again, I live my life enthusiastically, fully expressing the infinite potential of each and every moment.
I am dropping down to the truth of who I am. I am dropping down, surrendering in love. I am dropping down to the truth of who I am. I am dropping down, surrendering in love.
Let's take a moment, a deep breath, filling ourselves with spirit, releasing tensions and energies that don't serve and that close us, because we are opening to a new understanding. I recognize there is only one power and one presence activating all that is in the universe. And with this awareness, this realization, I know that I am an instrument and an active force of that God source energy. As I surrender to the God source energy and get out of the way, I drop down into a state of enthusiasm that has no limits. And as I embrace this, I am filled with boundless gratitude. What a joy, what a gift and a grace and a pleasure to know that I walk with you as God's source energy. And so I release and allow this prayer to expand in all ways that this energy wishes to move. I affirm it as so, and so it is. Amen.
I am dropping down to the truth of who I am. I am dropping down, surrendering in love, surrendering in love, surrendering in love, surrendering in love.
So I want to welcome our guest musician, the amazing Chelsea Hicks. Just so happy that you're here. So.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Feels good to feel good, doesn't it? Such a feeling's coming over me. There is wonder in most everything I see. Not a cloud in the sky, got the sun in my eyes, and I won't be surprised if it's a dream. Everything I want the world to be is now coming true, especially for me. And the reason is clear, it's because you are here. You're the nearest thing to heaven that I've seen. I'm on the top of the world looking down on creation, and the only explanation I can find is the love that I found ever since you've been around. Your love's put me at the top of the world. That's right. Something in the wind has learned my name, and it's telling me that things are not the same. In the leaves on the trees and the touch of the breeze, there's a pleasing sense of happiness for me. There is only one wish on my mind. When this day is through, I hope that I will find that tomorrow will be just the same for you and me. All I need will be mine if you are here. I'm on the top of the world looking down on creation, and the only explanation I can find is the love that I found ever since you've been around. Your love's put me at the top of the world. I'm on the top of the world looking down on creation, and the only explanation I can find is the love that I found ever since you've been around. Your love's put me at the top of the world.
Thank you, Chelsea. So I preached, I had a church for 15 years in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, right outside of Nashville. We pioneered it. And when we first moved to Tennessee, I would meet people, and I'd meet them for the first time, and I'd say, well, what do you do? Well, I'm a singer-songwriter. And then the first couple times, I was like, oh my God, that's fabulous. And then I realized everybody who moved to Nashville wanted to be a singer-songwriter. But the good news for us, even when we were in this really small town, we had amazing talent that people wanted to come down and just get on a stage in order to be able to get exposure, right? And the reason I share that is because I'm always, so I'm kind of a music snob that, coming from the Nashville Music City area, I'm always so impressed with the level of talent that we have here in Tucson. So, yeah. You would be considered, we had the A list and the B list. You would be considered the A list, Chelsea. So, just saying. So, all right, so good morning, everybody. Good morning. Isn't this just, I got to tell you, I woke up past couple of mornings, and this has nothing to do with my talk, but it's kind of the way I roll. And I woke up, and it was cool. There was a coolness in the air. And it's like this thought came to me, yes, Virginia, it does get cool in Tucson. And it just feels so good, and we can just feel the invigoration. And when I look around and see what Reverend Jonathan and this amazing community in terms of what we're creating, that is just so fabulous to be able to have this kind of message and community and connection here at Unity Tucson. So I am really happy that Reverend Jonathan is taking time to go get much needed rest. Yeah, I don't think we realize what he did. He walked in the Sunday before everything shut down. And not only did he keep this place together with the amazing leadership of the board and those of you in leadership positions, but when you look around, you see how much this community not only has grown, but that there's an emanation of energy from this community. And so, Jonathan, I know you're watching, maybe. Hopefully you're sleeping in, because it's 7 o'clock in Hawaii. But just I really want to take an opportunity for all of us to acknowledge the depth and the breadth of the work that he's done. And so much of it is behind the scenes. He does an amazing job on Sunday morning. This is a fraction of what happens in a church. It's behind the scenes. So with that, let's jump into this. So I gave him my talk title. It was actually a talk title that came to me. I was supposed to speak in June, and I got COVID, and we know how that goes, which I'm fine, thank you, God. So I've been playing with this talk title for a while, and so, he asked me, what's your talk title? And I said, with God, all things are possible. So I ask you, let me say it again. With God, all things are possible. Yeah, my question for all of us, do we believe it? Yes. I do too, most of the time. Yeah, one of the things that I've learned over my years of being in New Thought is to honor what I know and to stay humble to what I don't. And this past week was one of those weeks where I really had to stretch and work that spiritual muscle of belief, because there was that in me that wanted to believe it, right? And then there was a part of me that was really struggling to believe it. And and so I laughed, because it's watch the talk title you give. Because this then becomes the content. One of the things that I help the people that I work with, and that I now have a business doing this sort of thing, helping people understand the spiritual side of business, is that I talk about how the content of our life is the curriculum of our evolution. And I had content this week to invite me into a deeper understanding of what is it to be with God as we step into what seems to be the impossible. And so for all of us today, what I want to do is to dig deeper, is to really acknowledge that, yes, we believe that, and there is that in us that is inviting us to come to know that even more deeply. Are you all in for that? Yeah. Okay. So here's the thing that I love about that statement. There's two elements to that statement. First of all, it's descriptive. With God, all things are possible. all things are possible. It's a promise. It's telling me that there's not a single thing that I can be facing. There's not a single condition that's happening in my life, in my world right now. There's not a single thing that I can think up that's impossible, because all things are possible with God. It's descriptive. It's a promise. The second thing I love about that statement is that it's instructive. It's telling me how to do it. All things are possible when I am with God. And so the invitation is to go deeper into the reality, into the awareness of what is it to actually be with God. Now, we've all done this, correct? Every single one of us sitting here in some way, shape, or form has had what appeared to be an impossible situation. And as we deepen our awareness of the power that moves through and as us, not only did we overcome it, but we allowed it to transform us at depth. We can all think of those times, correct? You know, when I think about myself, there's nothing in my history to suggest that I would be where I am today. That my history, my background told me, quite frankly, that I should be dead or just barely scraping by. That, you know, the environment that I grew up in, I grew up with very well-meaning parents, and I deeply love and appreciate. In fact, yesterday marked my dad's anniversary of, he died 4 years ago, yesterday. And deeply appreciate him. And both my parents struggled with mental illness and addiction. So there was a terrific amount of darkness in my home. I mean, just the depth of violence was unspeakable at times. And I've learned to have deep compassion for people who struggle with mental illness and addiction. But by the grace of God, with these principles, I deeply forgave, and it impacted me. It wired a way of moving in the world, a way that said that the world is not safe, a world that said, literally, if I raised my head up too high, my life was literally in danger. It was a world that said, don't expect too much, and certainly don't depend on God, because God was the one saying that this is your cross to bear, kind of thing. You know, the rare occasion I did speak up about what was going on in the house. It was so dark that in my early 20s, in my late teens and early 20s, I actually wondered if I should continue going on. And one of the things that I'm really grateful for, and this is going to sound kind of odd, I'm really grateful for the religious tradition that I did grow up in, and I did grow up in a religious tradition, and I'm deeply grateful for elements of it. But that one of the things that it taught was that if you committed suicide, it was a mortal sin, and you didn't get to be buried in the cemetery. And for whatever the reason, that was important to me, that I wanted to be buried in the cemetery. And I'm grateful for that, because it kept me alive until the age of 22, when I was able to discover new thought principles. I was able to discover something different. And what I discovered was that there was a different way of living. There's a different way of being. There's a different way of relating to life. There's a different way of relating to myself, and there's a different way of relating to God. And man, it's like I walked out of the basement of myself into a technicolor world. It's breathtaking, the transformation that happened. Every single one of us can identify those times in our life when we look at where we came from and where we are now. You know, when I look at, I'm in a really wonderful 36-year relationship with this guy right here who's holding my purse. Work that I love. We have a rich, abundant life. And the most important thing is that I'm able to move in the world from a place of safety, move in a world in a place of expansive, move in a world through the world from a place of deep abundance and well-being. And we've all experienced that. And being the highly spiritual, sophisticated community that Unity of Tucson is, it's a little tempting and a little seductive to sit back and say, yeah, I know that. I got this. And guess what? God's not done. God's not done with any of us. When we really get who we are, in the words of Reverend Jonathan, that we are these magnificent, unlimited, powerful beyond measure beings, then we understand that we are always charged in the spiral of our evolution with what is the next seemingly impossible thing that is going to invite us into a deeper awareness of what it is to be with God. And so there's something knocking at the door of your heart, asking you to entertain what appears to be impossible. Are y'all still with me? Breathe. Yes, breathe, everybody. I know, I got to take a breath. So there's a line in, and I actually have a slide. I don't always use slides because I sometimes forget that they're there, but I've got one. So there's a great line in Alice in Wonderland, Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland, where Alice is talking to the Queen. And Alice says, why, you can't believe impossible things. And the Queen, and I can almost see her, putting her hand on her hip and say, well, I dare say you haven't had much experience. Why, when I was at your age, I would always dream up and believe impossible things before breakfast. In fact, there was one time, there have been several times, when I believed 6 impossible things before breakfast. Now, it's one thing to entertain something impossible. It's a whole nother thing. Think of the mental move, the spiritual move that's required to believe an impossible thing. So we're in the month of zeal, and there's nothing like igniting zeal than going for something that makes your heart flutter and you're scared and excited all at the same time. And so, are you willing to play along this morning? Oh, yeah. Yeah, of course you are. All right, so here's what I want you to do. I want you to bring to mind that thing that's been hanging out there on the peripheral of your consciousness that you've barely even let yourself entertain as a possibility. And I want you to bring it full on in this community, in this container of belief and safety and awareness and this energy of knowing who you are. Let yourself right now play in that playground of what appears to be impossible. Not what you think you can do, not which is a bit of a stretch. I'm talking about the thing that when you think about it, it absolutely takes your breath away and you don't have a clue on knowing how to do it. That's where you got to reach for God. So right now, if you're playing along, bring something to mind. Now, here's the thing I want you to know about your desire. Because what we're doing is that we're tapping into that deep soul desire. As I haven't been in the pulpit for a couple of years, I kind of got away from our rich Unity material. I'm, reading other stuff and studying and continuing my own study, but I stepped away a little bit from actually studying Unity material. Yeah, we got it going on. There's some great stuff. So I got familiar once again, dug back into Lessons in Truth. And here's what H. Emily Cady says about desire. So when you bring to mind something that feels impossible, what you're doing is that you're asking. You are activating the act of asking. Jesus, our master teacher, said, ask and you shall receive. But the thing about it is that in order to receive, we got to ask, right? So she says this, asking springs from desire to possess some good. What is desire? Desire in the heart is always, not periodically, not once in a while, not now and then, always. God tapping at the door of your consciousness with his infinite supply. God's infinite supply, universal intelligence. Remember, she wrote this back in the early 1900s and they used the pronoun he. So do the translation in your head. Desire in the heart is always God tapping at the door of your consciousness with his infinite supply. A supply that is forever useless unless there be a demand for it. Yeah, take that one in. All right, so I'm going to flip that over because we're coming back to Miss Dr. Katie. So right now, let's activate that supply. And let's use this amazing faculty of your imagination and really see it. So let's look at, what is this based on? So, all right, so I have this dream, I have this imagination, I have this desire, it feels impossible, but how do I even do this? What's the practicality of how to bring it in from the realm of your imagination into the facts of your life? Well, I taught school for 20 years. I actually taught special ed for 12 out of those 20 years. And so I am very practical. If we can't tangibly do it, it's warm and fuzzy, but it's useless. So I want to actually give you 4 very specific steps on how to bring this seemingly impossible thing that God is dropping into your heart to be able to bring it into the 3-dimensional reality of your life. So the first thing to understand, again, and to go deeper, is that we are powerful beyond measure. It's breathtaking how powerful we are. Y'all, if we really got how powerful we are, my God, we wouldn't be able to move. We'd just be on our knees in awe and gratitude of the power that we've been given. And what is this creative power? Do you all know what this creative power is? It's the gift of your imagination. We have been given this unprecedented capacity to create images in our faculty of our imagination. And we, as far as we know, are the only species on the planet that has the ability to consciously choose those images that we run in what Joseph Murphy calls the movie screen of our mind. Now, we're always running movies. We can't turn this thing off. It's always running. I don't know about you, but sometimes I wish I could turn it off. In a way, I'm grateful that I can't, because here's what happens in the realm of our imagination. When you are running movies in the movie screen of your mind, what happens is that it begins to activate physiological sensations in your body that we call feelings or emotions. Those feelings or emotions literally have an energy to them. That quantum physics, I love that quantum physics is proving with spiritual masters, like our master teacher Jesus, have known forever. Jesus was not necessarily spiritual. He was a master physicist. And he understood what it was to work with this energy. And so what Jesus understood is that we live and move and have being in a field of energy that's responsive, that's creative, that's generative. And that there are waves of unformed energy hanging out what quantum physics calls superposition. And in some fantastical way, those thoughts, those images that we're running in our imagination and charging with our feelings actually defines how we see ourselves. It becomes our identity, and our identity is then transmitted into this field, and this energy then organizes accordingly and creates our results. I mean, we've all heard this. It's the basic explanation of the law of attraction, which actually is the real law is the law of vibration. All right, so we've got that, right? We understand it. Nobody's new to this information. And if we really got it, imagine how reverently we would treat this. And we would come to understand that it is our spiritual stewardship to learn how to unlock this power by working with this imagination, by seeing those images, to be able to own what is it that God is knocking at the door of our heart in order to reveal more of God's self, more of our God self, to unlock and unleash more of this supply that is dormant. It's useless. I mean, think about that. It's useless unless there be a demand for it. Now, so the first step is the preliminary step, like the preschool step, is to own that we have this power and then to become devoted to images that bear witness to the power and the glory of that which is moving through us and which is us. Now, the next step is to understand that the purpose of those images It's not for what we get. This is not about accumulating more stuff. Although that's great. I mean, I always love a good pair of shoes. As my husband can attest to, right? So there's nothing wrong with that. But to understand that that's not the purpose. That's not the purpose of those desires. That's not the purpose of God knocking at the door of our heart. If you go back to what H. Emily Cady said, she said that it unlocks the supply that is forever useless. Well, it's not just the supply of what's out there, it's the supply of you. She goes on. The only way God has of letting us know of his infinite supply and his desire to make it ours is for him to push gently on the divine spark living within each one of us. He wants you to be a strong, self-sufficient man or woman, to have more power, or actually to realize your power and dominion over all before you. So he quietly and silently pushes a little more of himself, his desire, into the center of your being. He enlarges it, so to speak. He enlarges, so to speak, your real self. He enlarges your real self. And at once you become conscious of the new desire to be bigger, stronger, grander. Your desire is the way that life force energy, universal intelligence, the essence of all that is, wakes you up to more of your magnificence. So, see it, be it. Now, in the words of Jim Carrey, we can't just visualize and go to the refrigerator and make a sandwich. Right? We got to act on it. And I love that our fifth unity principle is that we have to put these principles into action. Now, oftentimes we think of putting them into action in our daily routine, which absolutely, we go about our daily routine with a new awareness of who we really are. And here's the thing, when you're bringing into form that which seems impossible, you're going to ask to do some things that are a little scary. In fact, they're going to be knee-knocking scary. That the only way you could take those actions is if you know you are with God. That's the only way that you can do it. They're the kind of things that the impossible demands in order to be able to bring this internal imaginative manifestation into the 3D world. I would love, and maybe one of these days we'll figure out how to do this, just to be able to, I'm going to show my age. I dream a genie when, or bewitch, wiggle your nose and boom, there it is, kind of thing. And for those of you who are not of that age, go look it up on YouTube. But so it requires that we take those big, bold actions that cause us to have the clutch, that cause the butterflies in our stomach, when we don't know for sure if and how it's going to work out on a human level. And we're able to tap into the stream of consciousness that knows that the minute you think it up, the reality has already existed in the invisible field. It's up to us to act accordingly. Here's the thing. We organize our lives in terms of our routines, our decisions, and our actions based on what we believe. If you want to know if you really believe something, look at how you're showing up. Look at the actions that you're taking. It's one thing to be in a warm and fuzzy environment here and feel all gooey inside that I believe this. It's a whole nother thing to put this into motion. When you know that God desire is asking you to do something that's just causing you to shake down to the bottom of your toes. And so how do you know what action to take? Well, here's how you know. You work with the question. If I really believe this, what is the action I would be taking right now? And you don't do it once and you don't do it twice. It becomes spiritual mastery. This is the spiritual discipline, to dream into the impossible, to keep putting on being that person, and to ask, if I really believe this, what is the action I would be taking right now? I love the story of flight. I love the Wright brothers. When you think about what those two guys did, they effectively slapped a fancy kite together, put a motor on it, and a wheel and said, we're going to fly. And that day, December 17th, 1903, Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. Imagine the conversation. You know, they've been working at this for a long time, trying to get this thing literally off the ground. And, you know, they've obviously had some successes along the way because they wouldn't be where they were at Kitty Hawk. And, you know, they crashed a lot. And there were people who died trying to figure out flight because they weren't the only ones in the world at the time doing this. So there they are at Kitty Hawk on December 17th, I think deep down knowing that this was going to be the time. And I can imagine the conversation. What I can imagine that it was not, all right, which one of us are going to do it? I ain't getting on that thing. It's your turn. Well, maybe we should just rock, paper, scissors it. Right? They didn't do that. They had the image of the impossible in their mind. And they knew that the ability to bring the impossible was there. And that they let the awareness and the belief in the impossible override the fear of getting on that thing. And that day in particular, it was Orville Wright. Orville got on it. You know, he got on the mechanized kite. You know, think about it. It was canvas with whatever their version of PCP pipe was. They built this thing, and it took off. It worked. And do you know how long that first flight was? 12 seconds. 12 seconds. Think of the transformation. It's like a veil dropped into a whole new dimension of possibility with a 12-second event. Now, granted, all of the work that led up to those 12 seconds, but it was a 12-second event. Imagine if Orville would have gotten, you know, safely back down to the ground. Not only did he get up, but he got safely back down, which is an important piece of this. Imagine if he would have gotten off and said, oh man, really? That's all we got? 12 seconds? All this energy, all this money, I am so done. I am packing it up and I am done. That's it. You know, we'd still be driving Model Ts. But he didn't do that. I can imagine that he got off and they were just whooping and howling, and I don't know if they did high fives or high tens there, but that they were celebrating, which is the fourth step. First one is to see it, be it, act it, and then we have to celebrate it. We are so conditioned in our society today to think that it's gotta be the big Oprah moments. Now, by the way, that was a pretty big Oprah moment. But it was only a 12-second event. And we are so wired to dismiss those indicators that we're moving in the right direction, to diminish them, to deny them. Thomas Troward, in one of his lectures, the amazing metaphysical writer back at the turn of the last century, talks about how it's so important to acknowledge the sprouts along the way, that we have to acknowledge the growth that is happening. Otherwise, we just get overwhelmed with disappointment and discouragement, and it's not working, and maybe I'm really not supposed to do this. Maybe this really isn't God's will. Well, here's the thing. It's not that it's not working out to tell you whether or not it's God's will. It's, do you come alive in the presence of it? That's it. That's how you know. Do I love the idea of this? And the more you're able to acknowledge the sprouts, the baby successes, the micro moves along the way, the more you get fueled to keep moving forward. All right, so I want to finish with this because I'd forgotten about this, and as I was preparing, I remembered this. We come from a tradition of visionaries. Now, I know that sounds like a bit of an oxymoron, putting visionary and tradition in the same sentence, but we come from a tradition of visionaries. Charles Fillmore had a vision back in the mid-1880s where he saw this movement. He was in Kansas City. Him and Myrtle were in Kansas City at the time, and he saw this movement, and he began to do the work to put the movement together. In 1920, and they're related, so stay with me. In 1920, in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the first commercial radio station was launched. In 1924, when it was still an unproven commodity, Charles Fillmore didn't just have a radio program, he bought a radio station and moved it to Unity headquarters, which was on on Tracy Street in Kansas City at the time. He bought, folks, listen to this. Radio was brand new. Nobody knew where this thing was going to go. And this man could see the vision to buy a radio station dedicated to this message. That's the impossible being made possible. That's visionary. He was always on the cutting edge. And in one of his last pieces that he wrote, Atom Smashing Power of the Mind, which is an amazing book, he was trying to make sense of the atom bomb. And Charles understood that God was present in everything, even in the things that were unfathomably horrific and dark. But he understood the power that got unleashed in terms of understanding of how to break the atom. Oh, God's calling. So here's what he says, here's what he talks about when he's thinking about microwaves. And he wrote this back in 1947 or 1948, when we barely had the telephone. He says, now that man has broken away from his limited visualizations and mentally grasped the unhampered idea of the supermind, he is growing grandly bold, and his technical pioneers are telling him that the achievements of yesterday are as nothing compared to those of tomorrow. And he talks about an article where it says, tells of the microwaves that are slated for a more spectacular career in the realm of the unbelievable than anything that has preceded them. This article describes in detail some of the marvels that will evolve out of the utilizations of microwaves, among which may be the mention of private phone calls by hundreds of thousands sent simultaneously over the same waveband. Sometimes we wish that didn't happen, but it did. Over the same waveband without wires, poles, or cables. Towns where each citizen has its own radio frequency over which he can get voice and music and television. And this was before television was really a thing. And call any phone in the country by dialing. Yeah! This is us, guys. This is where we come from. It's in our DNA. We are wired as a spiritual movement to be visionaries, to dream into the impossible, knowing we can bring it in to physical reality. So, here's my invitation for all of us. Really get that desire knocking at the door of your heart, that's not your desire. That is God calling you to step into more of what's available for you, more of who you are created to be. And the gift is that as you do that, you transform at depth. And it's not the achievement of the goal that changes our world. It's the transformation of you. And as each one of us steps into that, imagine this room of each one of us stepping in just to the next thing, how truly we exponentially transform and heal our planet. God bless. All right, you may not want to be standing or clapping after you hear the homework. So, here's your homework. I did have stuff up there. Okay, anyway, you got the message. So here's your homework. I invite you to spend some time each morning this week before breakfast and entertain and stay with it until you believe just one impossible thing. And then ask, if I really believe this, if I really believe that this was possible, what's the action I would take and who would I be taking that action? And then do it and share it with me. So, all right, so there's your homework.
Loving Spirit dwells in me. This is my divinity. As within, so without, all I need is here and now. Where there's air, let me love. May I have no fear. All the power, all the glory, I surrender, let it be. Loving Spirit dwells in me, now and evermore.
And I just invite us to take a moment and breathe deeply into our hearts, knowing that with every breath, it's evidence this life force energy, source, God, spirit, love, all that is breathing, animated in and through and as each one of us. And in this state of holy receptivity, we open our hearts and our minds and we capture the image that Spirit has with and for us. We see that image of the impossible, and with zeal and joy, exhilaration and enthusiasm, we claim it for ourselves, and we boldly step into who this desire is asking us to be, knowing that it is through this transformation that we fundamentally transform the face of our planet.
Loving Spirit dwells in me. This is my divinity. As within, so without, all I need is here and now. Where there's air, let me love. May I have no fear. Oh, the power, all the glory, I surrender, let it be. Loving Spirit dwells in me, now and evermore. Now and evermore.
We just say, thank you, God, and so it is. Amen. Thank you, guys. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. All right. All right, so now I'm going to invite our board member of the day, Mr. William, up to prepare us to be able to share our riches with this amazing community.
Good morning, Reverend Felicia.
Hi, William.
How are you today?
I'm great. How about you?
Oh, just excellent. So, I heard you talking. I actually listened. And,
I take that as high compliment, William. Just saying.
and you're talking about how nice it is in here, the warm and fuzzies. We're kind of one big family and stuff. And I think, of course, I'm feeling the warm and fuzzy. And then it occurs to me, oftentimes when I come up here, I give these deep, insightful things that are coming up for me, and that's appropriate. But if we're a family, we can't always be talking about like doing the laundry, paying the bills, cleaning the house. We need to have some fun too.
Absolutely.
Right? So this morning, I'm going to have some fun.
Uh-oh.
So the first fun thing I'm going to do is, Reverend Jonathan isn't here today. And he knows how dangerous it is to give me the mic. The first fun thing I want to do is, we did not have a stand-in for Reverend Jonathan. In fact, we had a person, a magnificent being, who stood on her own 2 feet, and that's Reverend Felicia.
Thank you, William.
Now, the second fun thing I'm going to do, because I know he's going to watch, because, that's the way he is, micromanaging all the time. So the second fun thing I want to do is, since he's going to be watching this, is on the count of 3, I would like all of us to say, "Good morning, Reverend Jonathan." So ready? 1, 2, 3. Good morning, Reverend Jonathan. And the third fun thing I want to do is, we come in here and, we're sitting and we might, say hi to a couple people on the way in. But just as we're sitting around a table eating dinner at home or something, we tend to, look at each other and have a conversation with each other. So the third fun thing I want to do this morning is just take a few seconds, and you can do this out loud if you're comfortable. Look at the people sitting around you and just say good morning to them.
Good morning. Good morning.
Okay. And there was another thing that popped into my mind as I was standing up here. Today is Potluck Sunday, so we do have Oktoberfest going on, and we've got Mark and Oscar out there, and Don is just to help prepare this stuff. We do have a feed going on, so please, let's the family go out and enjoy this. And when the basket comes around this morning, remember, we're not just putting in there for all the heavy stuff. We're putting in for the really fun stuff too. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, William. All right, so as the basket's going around and we're sharing our goodness and our wealth with this amazing community, knowing that this is the message reverberating out and it is the law of circulation. Together, let's say our prosperity prayer and affirmation. Together, I share this gift with love, conscious of the inner presence as the lavish source of my supply. I am rooted in the assurance that this gift blesses Unity of Tucson, and I trust in its ever-present circulation, knowing its blessing return to me, and so it is. And so if you are so inclined to stand up and sing our gratitude song.
Gratitude before me, gratitude behind me, gratitude to the left of me, gratitude to the right of me, gratitude above me, gratitude below me, gratitude within me, gratitude all around me. I'm so grateful.
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 I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful.
I'm so grateful.
I'm so grateful.
I'm so grateful.
I'm so grateful.
I'm so grateful.
I'm so grateful. Gratitude before me, gratitude behind me, gratitude to the left of me, gratitude to the right of me, gratitude above me, gratitude below me, gratitude within me, gratitude all around me. I'm so grateful.
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 I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful.
I'm so grateful.
I'm so grateful.
I'm so grateful.
I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful.
Thank you, y'all. Oh, all right, so a couple of announcements coming up. Starting next Sunday, we do have a group available next Sunday. We're starting the Fall Renew program. Are we supposed to do that first? Oh, okay, sorry about that.
Bless the tithes. Good morning, everybody. So let us take this moment with gratitude overflowing for the rich, infinite, abundant blessings that we are holding in our hands, and knowing that they are going to go forth not only to benefit our community here, but to bless the world in return. And so it is. Amen.
Thank you, Deborah.
You're welcome.
All right, now, fall renewal, Reverend Jonathan will be starting a series, and so we're getting together in small groups to deepen our relationship with one another and our connection as we're going. We've got 3 different groups that you can choose from, and Susan Smith will be on that table in the foyer to sign you up. We've only got 8 spots in each group, so please go grab your spot, and together as a community, let's go deeper in our smaller groups, because this then spills out into our larger community. Annual yard sale, October 21st and 22nd, opening at 7:30 each day. Donations are now being accepted, and please see Tyler if you have for more details and things to drop off. And I think it's Karen Ives who's running this, and so if you want to help, I know that she's looking for people to help with that as well. All right, women's retreat. That's me, yes. October 29th. So if you liked what you heard today, it's effectively a summary of what we're going to be doing in the retreat, that we're going to be diving deeper into what is the next seemingly impossible thing that's knocking at the door of your heart, and really doing some deep work of coming into bringing that into physical reality. So you can sign up for that. In the bookstore, and we'd love to have you together as a community. We go deeper into knowing what that is for ourselves. And I want to thank today in honor and the name for Reverend Jonathan, get the words out, Deborah Walker and Deborah Roberts as your prayer chaplains, that they will be here to be like in the middle of the sanctuary, here to hold space. You know, in Unity, we pray with affirmative prayer when we know the truth, and they are highly trained, highly calibrated instruments of prayer. And so please allow yourself to be loved and supported and filled up with what Reverend Jonathan calls a miracle minute. Just 1 minute, things you can do a pattern interrupt and shift profoundly. All right, so join us for social time in Harmony Hall. We've got a potluck going on today, as William said, so come get some good eats. And it's outside because it's fall here in Tucson. And yard sale stuff is in there. And it's nice and cool out. Yeah, so we'll enjoy it outside. So I do, again, in Reverend Jonathan's name, I want to thank those of you those guys in the back, the sound team, Don, and I think that's Tyler back there, and Linda, and the band. Who did, Susan Smith for, who did the Keeper of the Flames, and then Deborah for the prayer chaplain. Yes, so, and everybody. And thank you for showing up today and putting up with me. Reverend Jonathan will be back next week. And so, well, I don't know if he will be or not. He'll be back eventually. So, so come back when he's here. So, all right, everybody. So let's stand and complete this as we go into our day doing the impossible. Oh, together, let's say our affirmation. I am infinite light. I am infinite love. I am infinite power. I am infinite presence. Wherever God is, I am. Wherever I am, God is. And so it is. All right, so everybody please feel free to join and dance in the closing song.
I'm gonna let it shine, this little light of mine. I'm gonna let it shine, this little light of mine. I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. I'm gonna let it shine, shine. Everybody, shine, shine. You know you want to. Shine, shine, all around the world. Shine, shine.
Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere
there's light in the soul,
When there's light in the soul,
there is beauty in the person.
there's beauty in the person.
When there's beauty in the person,
When there's beauty in the person,
there is harmony in the home.
there's harmony in the home.
When there's harmony in the home,
When there's harmony in the home,
there is honor in the nation.
there's honor in the nation.
When there's honor in the nation,
When there's honor in the nation,
there is peace in the world. No more living in fear. We're gonna let it shine. No more living in fear. We're gonna let it shine. No more living in fear. We're gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. We're gonna let it shine, shine. Everybody, shine, shine. You know you want to. Shine, shine, all around the world. Shine, shine, oh my brothers and sisters. Shine, shine, everybody. Shine, shine, you know you want to. Shine, shine, all around the world. Shine.